When my father died, he left me only a letter. And to my brother, all his fortune. Houses. Cars. Accounts. But they didn't know. The true legacy was yet to be written. And revenge. It was already in my blood. I'm Danielle. I've always been the quiet, shadowy child. Our family was rich. Not just like that. Summer houses, sports cars, chauffeurs. We had everything. But I never really felt like their daughter. My father. Maybe he loved me, but I never saw him laugh as much as my little brother. He was the favorite child with a twinkle in his eye. I was. Just the other one. When the news of my father's death came, I felt a strange emptiness inside. Did I shed tears? Yes, I did. But mourning for an incomplete love is different. After the funeral, the will was read. And there, my heart died a second time. The lawyer said that day. The deceased leaves his entire fortune to his little daughter. Danielle. Receives no material inheritance. She was left only a letter. It was as if the air in the room was suddenly sucked out of the room. My brother looked into my eyes. And laughed slyly. Even your father didn't want you, Danielle. What are you still doing here? I opened it with trembling hands. In the familiar writing of my father, it read. Daughter. I can't leave you this. You are a strong person. You must make a life for yourself. This fortune will swallow you. Your brother we will need it more. At that moment, something inside me broke. Not only my heart. My pride was buried that day. I left home. There was no money in my pockets. But there was a fire burning inside me. The fire of justice. For years I had silenced myself. But now I would speak. I would turn silence into revenge. I swore that day. One day. My sister, who thought she had everything. When she had nothing left, she would find me. But this is not a story of anger. This is the beginning of a cold-blooded plan. It is one thing to be kicked out of a house. But it is a much stronger decision not to return to a house where you don't belong. That day. After the reading of the will and everyone dispersed, my brother came to me. The smile on his lips was like poison. You have no place in this house anymore. It would be best for you to leave, sister. Sis. That's what she used to say when she was little, wasn't it? The last time I felt the warmth of that word was years ago. Now it was coming out of her lips like a knife. I didn't say anything. I looked into her eyes. I turned around. And left. A bag. 3 outfits in it. Only $47 in my pocket. I didn't look back when I left the family home. Because that house had never been my home anyway. I spent the first night in a hotel room. Cheap, dark, quiet. And eerily familiar. I read the letter my father left over and over again. You are strong. I can't leave you this. This fortune will swallow you. Was I really strong? All I felt at that moment was loneliness. But then something happened. I felt a spark burning. Deep inside me. I had nothing to lose anymore. And that was a dangerous force. The next morning I took to the streets. I looked for a job in a coffee shop. I applied as a cleaner in a hotel. The answer was always the same. You have no experience. Where's your CV? There are many job seekers. But I didn't give up. For 3 days I got up at 6 a.m. and went into every shop in the city. One of them. An old bookseller. Let me in. Come only on weekends. Clean the shelves, sort the books. The fee? It was a ridiculous amount. Because that store was the first place Danielle was reborn. Do you know what my brother was doing at the time? He was driving his new car to parties, appearing on TV, saying, I'm going to make the most of my father's inheritance. One day, I saw him in a magazine. The headline was, he became the head of $1 million fortune at a young age. I crumpled up the page and threw it in the trash. But that expression remained in my mind. That look of contempt. At that moment, the real plan was born in my mind. I don't want wealth. I want justice. I worked at the bookstore on weekends and took business classes and free municipal courses during the week. I read until the morning. When I found free Wi-Fi at the cafe, I researched business ideas. What are people hungry for? Which need has been forgotten? Which sector is ready to explode? And I found it. But before this idea, one morning, I found an old envelope among the books. Inside was a yellowed note from an unknown person. Sometimes the truth comes too late. But when it does, it changes your life forever. If your name is Danielle, This note could be yours. There was nothing written on the envelope. But it gave me chills. It was like someone was watching me. That day, I made two decisions. I would teach my brother what his fortune was. I would build my own fortune from scratch. And third, I didn't know it then, but my real family hadn't yet entered the story. He invested like a spoiled child, not like an entrepreneur. He got into stocks on influencer advice. A few weeks before the crypto crash, he bought coins with all his money. And no one warned him. Because everyone was eating his money. I was earning a little but building a solid foundation. After my first order, things grew. I separated the books by category. I converted the summaries into PDFs and sold them to people who wanted pithy information. I bought a second-hand laptop with the money I made. And now things were moving faster. I realized that people don't just want books. They want stories, emotion, connection. What I was doing was selling stories, not products. That's when I had an idea. Why don't I offer emotional products? Not just books? I would reimagine old memoirs and commoditize people's emotions. And that idea turned into Danielle's second business. I was drinking my coffee when the news broke about my brother's first crash. Young entrepreneurial millionaire loses $2 million in wrong investment. There was no expression on my face. But inside me, somewhere, justice was slowly rising up. I needed a workshop for my second job. But I had no money. The bookstore owner offered me the back warehouse. You clean half of it and I'll use the other half for storage. We agreed. That place became my first small office. Peeling paint on the wall. A bare light bulb hanging from the ceiling. But in my eyes, it was the heart of an empire. I worked nights. I carried cargo myself. I wrapped boxes by hand. I managed social media myself. Little by little, people started to hear my name. Who is this Danielle? She turns old books into works of art. She works with emotion, very impressive. And my brother. He signed with a new PR agency. He was trying to repair his reputation. But it was too late. The investors wanted their money back. Lawyers were at his door. But I had a plan. I found the accountant my brother worked for. I set up an appointment with him. I asked for advice on behalf of my own company. In the meeting, I asked one thing. Are all your investment transactions public? Yes, he said. It's filed with the SEC, I said. Good. I was going to write my brother's end. With his records. That night, I came across that old envelope again among the books. That note again. Sometimes the truth comes too late. But this time there was a new line underneath. As if someone had added a new one. And sometimes it finds you. I was scared. But at the same time, I had a feeling. There was something I didn't know about me. And this wasn't just a story of revenge. It was a journey to find out who I was. At night I cleaned in the bookstore. In the mornings I drew business plans in the public library with free Wi-Fi. Nobody knew, but a company was being woven in my mind. My first business idea was simple, online sales of used books. But my difference was to summarize the content of the books and promote them on social media. I took the first book. I wiped the dust off. I shot a 10-second video on my old cell phone. The truth hidden inside this book. Maybe it's about your past. Views, 43. Likes, 3 sales? None. But I persisted. One book every day. One video every day. At the end of the third week, someone texted me. I'll buy it if you ship it. That message was the first feeling of value I'd had in years. A $5 book gave me $500 worth of self-confidence. What was my brother doing in the meantime? Meetings with investment advisors in New York. Posing in luxury hotels. Stories on Instagram. Invest today. Success tomorrow. But I knew very well what he was doing. Those who spend wealth without understanding it have actually taken the first step towards impoverishment. My brother took that step. And in heels. Some fortunes are inherited. Some fortunes are won by fighting. And some, when lost, everything is rewritten. That morning, as soon as I woke up, I reached for the phone. The first notification was this. Scandal. Young heiress accused of investment fraud. I rubbed my eyes. I put the phone away and read the headline again. Then I poured myself a cup of coffee. And slowly sat down. At that moment, there was a strange silence inside me. Not joy. Instead of a cry of triumph. Just a stillness. Because I knew this was going to happen. In fact, I had prepared for it. Weeks before, I had contacted someone inside the agency where my brother worked. A small, disgraced media consultant. He was about to lose his job. And I gave him a chance to survive. Just get the right file to the right person. I'll do the rest. What was in the file? Expenses that proved my brother was using investor money for personal expenses. Marina memberships, private jet charters, luxury party expenses. It was a small documentary. A dossier that told the story of his own demise. That dossier exploded in the local press. Then the national media. And then, the SEC stepped in. My brother panicked. He closed his Instagram account. He fired his press agent. He hired a lawyer, but it was too late. By then, I had officially launched my second company. Danielle and Company, a handmade luxury gift company that personalizes sentimental objects. Soon, online orders exploded. Even the New York Times mentioned me in a small column. A woman entrepreneur who started anonymously is building a fortune selling emotions. After that article, sales doubled. I rented a new warehouse. I hired 2 employees. But I was still quiet. Because revenge can't be rushed. Revenge had to be taken slowly. The more my brother struggled, the more he sank. His social circle distanced itself from him. The influencers who used to pose with him were now making scandalous videos about him. Here's the real face behind the fake wealth. How to squander an inheritance of millions. But the real blow was yet to come. He was just falling. And I was going to deliver the final blow. Just as he hit the ground. One day, an anonymous message arrived in my mailbox. It just said, "Your past is not what you think it is." And attached was a document, birth registration form. Until that moment I thought I had built my life on revenge. But this document, it turned everything upside down. The names of my parents on the document didn't look familiar to me. My parents had no name. My birthplace was different. And a note next to it. "The truth finds you, Danielle." For the first time, my knees went weak. The people I wanted to avenge. Maybe they weren't even my real family. But the timing was critical. Because my brother was live on the media at the time, trying to defend himself. And I had prepared a special post for that broadcast. During the broadcast, a journalist asked, "I'm asked how you manage wealth. That great legacy your father left you. Where is it now?" My brother pretended to wink and replied in his classic manner. "Investments take time, of course. There may be some setbacks, but everything is under control." Just then, a screen appeared behind the broadcast. And on that screen, the logo of Danielle and Company, and underneath it, this sentence. "Sometimes, the true legacy is revealed later." Even the presenter was surprised. "What is this? Is it connected to you?" My brother was silent. The camera moved closer. And the video I had prepared beforehand came on the air. And in that video, I said, "This is Danielle. I didn't want to interfere with this broadcast. But I can no longer keep silent. The inheritance may be yours. But the value is mine. And I'm about to find out who my real parents are." You don't write whose child you are. You write who you are in the life you choose. And this ending is just beginning. The broadcast cut out. The place was on fire. My brother came out of the studio crying. Social media shared the moment over and over again. Danielle was no longer just a name. She was a story. She was a symbol. And justice. I set out for revenge. But what I found was a secret buried by the past. And that secret could destroy me, not my family. After that broadcast, my life was never the same. My phone was ringing off the hook. Everyone wanted an interview. "How did you do it? Is revenge sweet? Did you really play a role in your brother's downfall?" But the answers, no one had them. Because in those moments, no matter how strong I looked on the outside, inside I was preparing for another battle. My brother had disappeared. None of his social media accounts were active. Even the lawyers couldn't reach him. People were about to forget him. But not me. Because his downfall only represented my justice. The real battle was starting now, with myself. With my past. And the lie I thought I was blood related to. That birth certificate haunted me. The names of a woman and a man. Names I'd never heard of. But then, the old man in the old bookstore handed me an envelope. "This came last week. It doesn't have your name on it, but I felt it was yours. I opened it with trembling hands. What came out was a piece of a map. A red dot on it, Vermont countryside. And a line of text. Blood deceives you. Truth calls to you. My mind was in turmoil. But at the same time, something was awakening inside me that I had suppressed for years. Who was I? Was Danielle just a name? Or was I someone lost in a big game being played? I took off. Alone. I didn't tell the press, I didn't tell my staff. Danielle and Company was now big enough to take care of itself. And me? I had to go back to the past. When I arrived in Vermont, the sky was gray. An abandoned stone house at the foot of the mountains. The door half open. Inside, moldy books, scattered chairs. And, on a table, a box that looked like it had been left for me. Inside were old letters, photographs, and a videotape. At that moment, I fell to my knees. I choked on one of the photos in my hand. The baby in the photo was me. And the woman holding that baby was not my mother, nor anyone I had ever known. The letters said, "We had to protect you. We weren't your family, but we loved you. Your real mother was very strong. But she had many enemies. Leaving you with that rich family was the safest option. Now you're grown up. The truth will find you. Are you ready, Danielle?" My heart was beating like crazy. What did that mean? The person I thought was my brother. The man I thought was my father. Was it just a curtain? The stage of a play? There was only one word on the tape, my daughter. I found a video player and put the tape in. The picture started dark. Then, a woman's face appeared. Her face was full of fear and love. And her voice was trembling. "Danielle, if you're watching this, I'm no longer alive. I never had a fortune to leave you. But I leave you a truth. This world is unfair. And you grew up in the midst of that injustice. But don't forget who you are. You are the bearer of a destiny. Not just revenge. And your time has come." The image went black. I collapsed and cried. This was not just a story of revenge. This was a labyrinth where I was born, lost, and now I found myself again. Now I had to go back. But now as someone else. I defeated my brother. I started my company. But the real battle was about to begin. Because the real legacy is not about who you are. It's about who you want to be. I set out for revenge. But at the end of the road, I found myself. And sometimes the ultimate justice is forgiveness. When I returned from Vermont, I was no longer the same person. I was no longer just Danielle. A daughter, an entrepreneur, a revenge seeker. Not. I was a woman with a buried past and an open future. And now, I really had to finish this story. No one still knew where my brother was. He was bankrupt. He'd lost his credit, his reputation, his homes. But most of all, he had lost faith in himself. I found him. One night, he was sitting in the backyard of our old family home. Quietly. Tired. Broken. The moonlight was shining on her face. The makeup mask was gone. The way she used to hug me and call me sister when I was little. I saw her again for the first time years later. We never spoke. We just sat. We were both silent. But that silence was the loudest scream. Finally he spoke. "Why? Why did you make me like this?" I didn't answer. I just handed her an envelope. Inside was a copy of my father's original will. "He didn't actually leave you everything. You made a deal with the lawyer so that nothing would be left to me." His eyes widened. The moment he lied. It was written all over his face. "Then why didn't you help me?" "Because it was your test," I said. "And you? You thought you could build character with money." He went silent. And then I took out another envelope. "It's the document I brought from Vermont. This is my birth certificate. I'm not born into that family. I mean, in fact, I'm not even your brother." His eyes filled up. "So, nothing was real," he said. I shook my head. "No," I said. "The only thing that was real was what you did to me. We weren't related by blood, but I always knew you as my brother. And you threw me out." At that moment, he started crying. For the first time. For the first time. Really. Now I had to give him the harshest punishment. But do you know what the worst punishment was? Not silence. Not to destroy. Not forgetting. The greatest of punishments is forgiveness. Because forgiveness leaves a man alone with his own conscience. And I forgave him. That night we sat until the lights went out. Then I got up. I said one last thing before I left. You ruined me. But I was reborn. Now it's your turn. You destroyed yourself. But if you want, you can find yourself. But this time, without crushing others. He didn't call after me. And I never came back. Danielle and Company was no longer just a company. It was a movement. It was a way to give hope to women who had lost themselves, to prove that you can build your life from scratch. I may never have known my real family. But the greatest legacy they left me was freedom. And everything I didn't get from the man I thought was my father was the most powerful lesson that made me who I am. Finally, years later, I made my name official. Danielle Gray. It was no longer just a name. There was a story behind it. And that story was written not in blood, but in character. That's how Danielle was disinherited. But life taught her that character, not wealth, is the real value. Revenge? Yes. But in the coldest form. In silence. So, do you think revenge was taken? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this stunning story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more.